Azalea was a proud princess of the Vorthian Empire, known for her beauty and strength. She lived in a grand palace on a planet far away, surrounded by the shimmering stars. The Vorthians were a powerful race, with advanced technology and deep knowledge of the universe. But Azalea was different. She cared for her people and wanted peace, unlike some of her family who craved power and control. One day, her envious cousin, Draxon, plotted against her. He wanted to be the next ruler and saw Azalea as a threat. Draxon framed her for a crime she didn't commit. He spread lies about her, saying she was plotting against the Empire. The council, swayed by Draxon's words, decided to punish her. Azalea stood tall, defiant in her innocence, but the council would not listen. With a heavy heart, they sentenced her to exile on a distant planet, Earth. As she stood on the platform, looking out at the cold stars, Azalea felt a mix of fear and anger. Earth is a primitive world, she thought, but I will survive. The council sent her away in a small spaceship, a fraction of the size of her royal ship. As the engines roared to life, she felt the weight of her fate pressing down on her. The journey to Earth was turbulent. The ship shook violently as it traveled through the vastness of space. Azalea tried to control her fear, focusing on her breathing. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the ship. Alarms blared as she realized something was wrong. The ship was losing power. Azalea fought to keep the vessel steady, but it spiraled out of control, crashing through the atmosphere of Earth. With a thunderous crash, the ship landed in a thick forest, surrounded by towering trees. Dazed but unharmed, Azalea stepped out of the wreckage. The air was different here, thicker, filled with strange scents. As she looked around, she saw vibrant colors, flowers, and insects buzzing about. This was unlike anything she had seen before. "Where am I?" she murmured to herself, feeling lost and alone. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes startled her. A small animal jumped out, its eyes wide and curious. Azalea instinctively reached for her blaster, but then remembered she was no longer in her world. She needed to adapt to survive. As she wandered through the forest, Azalea encountered humans for the first time. They were gathered around a campfire, laughing and sharing stories. Curiosity pushed her closer, but she kept hidden behind a tree. She wanted to understand these strange beings. They looked fragile compared to her, but there was something strong in their laughter. Azalea decided to approach, but as she stepped forward, a branch snapped under her foot. The humans turned, eyes wide with fear. "Who's there?" one shouted. Azalea tried to calm them. "I mean no harm!" she called out, raising her hands. But the humans, frightened by her sudden appearance, mistook her for a threat. In an instant, they grabbed sticks and stones, ready to defend themselves. Azalea realized she needed to act quickly. With a swift move, she showed them her skills. In a flash, she dodged their attacks, demonstrating her agility and strength. The humans were stunned, unsure of what to make of this strange girl who moved like a shadow. "Stop! I'm not your enemy!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the trees. Slowly, the humans lowered their weapons, still wary but curious. Azalea took a deep breath, knowing she needed to earn their trust. "I come in peace," she said, her voice steady. As night fell, the humans invited her to join them. Azalea sat by the fire, feeling warmth for the first time since her exile. They shared stories of their lives, their struggles, and their dreams. Azalea listened intently, realizing that despite their differences, they were not so unlike her. She felt a flicker of hope. This was just the beginning. Azalea knew she had to learn their ways, adapt to their world, and find a way to survive. With determination in her heart, she resolved to transform herself into something more than just a lost princess. She would become a warrior. Azalea sat around the campfire, her heart racing with excitement and fear. The humans had welcomed her into their small group, but she knew she had to prove herself. She was not just an alien princess. She needed to become one of them if she wanted to survive on Earth. The warmth of the fire surrounded her, and she listened closely as they talked about their lives, their struggles, and their dreams. The leader of the group, a man named Mike, noticed her interest. "You want to learn how to survive here?" he asked, his eyes studying her. Azalea nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want to learn your ways." "I need to be strong," she replied, determination in her voice. "You did amazing," Sarah exclaimed, clapping her hands. The others surrounded Azalea, congratulating her. She felt a sense of belonging wash over her. This was her new family, and she was becoming one of them. But Azalea wasn't satisfied yet. She wanted to push herself further. That evening, she approached Mike after the training session. "I want to train harder. I want to be more than just fast. I want to be a super soldier," she declared, her voice firm. Mike looked at her, a mix of respect and concern in his eyes. "All right, Azalea. We can start extra training sessions, but it will be tough. Are you ready for that?" Azalea nodded without hesitation. She was determined to become stronger no matter the cost. The next day, Azalea began her intense training. Mike created a regimen that included strength training, combat techniques, and endurance exercises. They lifted heavy logs, ran long distances, and practiced fighting techniques for hours on end. Azalea felt her body changing. She grew stronger and more skilled with each passing day. One afternoon, during a sparring session, Azalea faced off against Mike. He was one of the best fighters in the group, and she knew this would be a true test of her abilities. They circled each other, eyes locked in focus. As the match began, Azalea moved quickly, using her speed to dodge his attacks. But Mike was experienced. He countered her moves with precision, forcing Azalea to think fast. She began to anticipate his actions, finding openings to strike. They fought fiercely, and Azalea felt the thrill of battle coursing through her veins. With a final burst of energy, Azalea launched herself at Mike, surprising him with a swift kick that sent him stumbling back. "Nice move," he shouted, a grin spreading across his face. Azalea laughed, feeling the joy of victory. As the weeks passed, Azalea became not just faster and stronger, but also more strategic. She learned to think like a soldier, to analyze her surroundings, and to adapt to any situation. Her friends watched in awe as she transformed before their eyes. But Azalea's past was still a shadow over her. She had been exiled for a reason, and deep down, she knew that danger could find her again. The thought of Draxon and the Vorthian Empire haunted her. She had to prepare for the day when they might come for her. One evening, as she sat by the campfire, Azalea shared her fears with the group. "What if they come to find me? What if I'm still not strong enough?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. Mike placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You are strong, Azalea. You've come so far, and we will stand by you. You are not alone anymore," he said. Azalea felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. With her new friends by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She would fight for her new home, for her new family, and for herself. The journey to becoming a super soldier had just begun, and Azalea was determined to rise to the challenge. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Azalea sat with her friends around the campfire, feeling the warmth on her face. The laughter and stories shared filled the air, but beneath the surface, tension lingered. They had trained hard, but Azalea could sense that trouble was coming. Mike stood up, his expression serious. "Everyone, we need to talk. There have been reports of strange ships in the area," he said, his voice steady but urgent. The group fell silent, concern spreading among them. Azalea felt a chill run down her spine. Her instincts warned her that it was not just a coincidence. "What do you mean by strange ships?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed. Mike glanced around at the group before answering. "They don't belong to Earth. They have advanced technology and weapons. We think they might be looking for Azalea." The group turned to Azalea, their eyes wide with shock and fear. "What should we do?" one of them asked, voice trembling. Azalea took a deep breath, steeling herself. "We prepare for battle. I will not let them take me or harm any of you," she declared, her voice strong. The humans nodded, rallying behind her. They had come to trust her, and she would not let them down. The next morning, Azalea led the group in preparation. They gathered supplies and weapons, using everything they had learned in training. Azalea felt a sense of purpose surge within her. She was no longer just a princess, she was a warrior ready to fight for her new home. As they set up defenses around their camp, Azalea demonstrated various combat techniques. The humans listened closely, eager to learn. "Stay together and watch each other's backs," she instructed. "We need to work as a team." Days passed, and the tension grew. The ships had been spotted closer, hovering above the forest. Azalea and her friends prepared for the worst, practicing their moves, honing their skills, and staying alert. Azalea felt a mix of fear and excitement. She knew the enemy would come, and she was ready to face them. Then one night, the sky filled with a bright light. Azalea looked up and saw the ships descending, their metallic forms blocking out the stars. "They're here," she shouted, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The humans rushed to their positions, ready for battle. The ships landed with a thunderous roar, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Azalea stood at the front, heart racing. The doors of the ships opened, revealing armored figures. They were Vorthian soldiers, fierce and powerful. Azalea's blood ran cold as she recognized their uniforms. "Princess Azalea!" one of the soldiers shouted, his voice echoing in the night. "You are to return with us. You have betrayed your people." Azalea stepped forward, her chin held high. "I will not return. I belong here now," she yelled, her voice filled with defiance. The humans stood beside her, ready to fight. The Vorthians advanced, weapons raised. Azalea and her friends sprang into action. Azalea felt the rush of battle take over her. She fought with everything she had, her training kicking in. She moved with speed and agility, dodging attacks and striking back. The humans fought bravely, standing their ground beside her. As the fight raged on, Azalea noticed a familiar face among the Vorthians. It was Draxon, the commander who had exiled her. "You think you can hide on this pathetic planet?" he sneered, anger burning in his eyes. "You are weak without your empire!" Azalea's heart raced, but she stood firm. "I am stronger than you think. I have found my strength here among these people," she shouted back. Draxon lunged at her, but Azalea was ready. She sidestepped his attack and countered with a swift kick, sending him stumbling back. The battle intensified, and the air filled with shouts and the clash of weapons. Azalea fought fiercely, her friends rallying around her. They pushed back against the Vorthians, showing their strength and determination. Azalea felt a sense of unity among her group. They were fighting for each other and for their home. Just when it seemed the tide was turning in their favor, Draxon rallied his soldiers. "We cannot lose! Attack!" he shouted, and the Vorthians charged again. Azalea and her friends fought harder, adrenaline coursing through them. As the fight continued, Azalea realized they needed a plan.
"We need to divide them."
"We can't let them surround us!" she yelled. Mike nodded, understanding her plan. They quickly organized themselves, moving to outsmart the enemy. With teamwork and strategy, they began to push back the Vorthians. Azalea felt hope rise within her. She was no longer just an alien princess. She was a leader, a warrior fighting for her new family. As dawn broke, painting the sky with colors of victory, Azalea knew they had a chance. The fight for Earth was far from over, but she and her friends were ready. They would protect their home, and together they would face any challenge that came their way. The sun rose over the forest, casting a golden glow on the aftermath of the battle. The ground was littered with the remains of the Vorthian soldiers and their broken weapons. Smoke still hung in the air, but the worst was over. Azalea stood at the edge of the battlefield, looking out over the scene, her heart heavy with a mix of exhaustion and relief. They had won, but the cost had been high. Beside her, Mike and the others were tending to the wounded. Azalea joined them, helping where she could. Her body ached from the fight, but her mind was still sharp. She moved quickly, using the skills she had learned in training to aid her friends. Sarah winced as Azalea wrapped a bandage around her arm. "You saved us, Azalea," Sarah said, her voice soft but full of gratitude. "We couldn't have done it without you." Azalea smiled weakly. "We did it together. All of us. You're all stronger than you realize." She looked around at her new family. The humans who had accepted her fought beside her and risked their lives for her. They were no longer just her comrades. They were her people. As the morning wore on, the survivors gathered around the campfire once more, this time in silence. The weight of the battle still hung over them, but there was a sense of peace in the air. They had faced an enemy far more powerful than themselves, and they had emerged victorious. The threat from the Vorthians was over, at least for now. Mike stood up, his voice breaking the silence. "We fought hard and we've protected our home. But now, we need to think about the future. What comes next?" He looked at Azalea, his eyes full of respect. Azalea took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her own decision. She had been exiled to Earth as a punishment, but now this planet had become her home. She was no longer just an alien princess hiding from her past. She had become something more, a protector, a leader, and a friend to these humans who had shown her loyalty and kindness. "I've thought a lot about what comes next," Azalea said, standing to address the group. Earth is my home now. You all are my family. I'm not running anymore. I'll stay here and help rebuild, protect, and defend this planet. Together we can create a new future. The humans nodded, smiles breaking through the weariness on their faces. They had come to trust Azalea as their leader, and her words gave them hope. There was no longer fear in their eyes, only determination and unity. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the trees. Everyone tensed, grabbing their weapons, ready for another fight. But out of the forest came a small group of people, Earth's military. They had finally arrived, too late for the battle, but ready to help. Azalea stepped forward to greet them. The commander, a tall woman with sharp eyes, looked at Azalea with surprise. We heard reports of an alien invasion, but it seems you handled it, she said, her tone both curious and impressed. We fought them off, Azalea replied calmly. But we're going to need help rebuilding. The threat isn't gone for good. The commander nodded. We'll provide support. It's clear you've earned the respect of the people here. She looked Azalea up and down as if seeing her for the first time, not just as an alien, but as a warrior who had proven herself. As the military began helping with the cleanup and offering medical aid, Azalea walked to the edge of the camp. She stared at the horizon, her mind racing with thoughts of the future. She had found her place on Earth, but she knew her journey wasn't over. There would be more challenges, more battles, and more enemies, but she wasn't afraid anymore. Azalea felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Mike standing beside her. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking about what's next, she replied with a small smile. This is just the beginning. We've won this fight, but there will be others, and I'm ready for them. Mike nodded, his expression serious but hopeful. We'll face them together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Azalea felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had come to Earth as an exile, lost and alone. But now she had found her strength, her family, and her future. She wasn't just an alien princess anymore. She was a warrior, a super soldier, and a protector of her new home. A new chapter of her life had begun, and Azalea was ready for whatever came next. The fight for Earth had only made her stronger, and with her friends by her side, she knew they could face anything. This was their new beginning,